Good morning, YouTube. Welcome back to a brand new video. I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for the support on this channel this past month. We just hit 8,000 subscribers on YouTube, and that's a big milestone for me. My small little channel, my small little community. I'm grateful for each and every single one of you. All of you guys, I see the same names in my comment section every single video, and I really appreciate it. So thank you guys so much. In today's video, I'm gonna teach you guys how to never miss a squat on depth. All right, talking about squat depth today, there are a few things that I think can really affect how deep your squats can be. The first thing I wanna talk about is before I even get underneath the barbell, and that's like your mobility, your hip mobility, ankle mobility, stuff like that. When you're warming up, if you're very stiff, very tight, it's obviously gonna be a lot harder for you to hit depth. A lot of you guys have asked me this in the past about like my voodoo floss, like what this is, what it does for me. And personally, it could just be a placebo thing, but I think it helps me open up my hip flexors, my TFL, my hamstrings. Whenever I squat, if these things are very like wound up and like tight, it's hard for me to hit depth. So whenever I'm warming up, I just go through my regular routine, my mobility. But yeah, like I said, if you have a kind of like stiff hip flexors, stiff hamstrings, you feel like your body isn't properly warmed up, it's gonna be hard for you to hit depth. Today's squat workout is 3 sets of 5. It's a deload week, so very easy this week. 80, 85, 90 kilos. One thing about me is I have very stiff ankles. When I was younger, I played a lot of sports and I sprained my ankles numerous times. So it's kind of affecting me in my powerlifting career because now my ankles have very limited dorsiflexion, so I don't have that much mobility in them. I take like a little peanut or a lacrosse ball underneath my foot and just roll up my plantar fascia. Yeah, let's talk about how to train your arch. And I'm not talking about bench press arch, I'm talking about your foot arch. Yeah, I start filming like foot content. This video is gonna be 3 things that I feel like you should focus on if you're concerned about your depth or squatting high in a meet. If you wanna avoid that, these are 3 things I want you to focus on. Oh. Have you ever done a Hatfield squat? You put a safety squat bar and you just hold on to something like this?
Oh, I did a Hatfield split squat.
Are you guys team squatting with or without wrist reps? I feel like juggling back and forth between the both of them these past few years, and I can't really decide what I like more. Oh. All right, let's get this straight. I'm gonna talk to you guys what depth is and what judges look for in order for a lift to be good in a meet.
Someone pull out the rule book.
I am the rule book. The one thing that the judges are looking for when they're looking at your depth is your hip crease. They're looking for your hip crease to be below the top of your knee at the bottom of a squat. So for example, if you're looking at me right now directly from the side, this is not a deep squat. This is not a deep squat. If you look at my hip crease, it's parallel with the top of my knee joint, and that's not deep enough. Close the garage door because 1, it was hot and I was getting real steamy in here. Like my body was overheating. And 2, the lighting is so much better for you guys. I'm looking out for you guys, not me. Get out of the way. Oh, this guy, bro.
Self-awareness skills, non-existent.
Let's talk about the second thing that I want you to focus on when you're trying to hit depth on squats. This is gonna be the controlling the eccentric. You'll see a lot of powerlifters that squat very high or somewhat borderline. They kind of dunk their squats. They're not really controlling on the way down. Especially when you're early on in your career, I feel like it's a good thing to have a little bit more control on the way down on your squat. That way you can kind of feel where you're at when you get to the bottom, and when you get to parallel, you'll know to get below that, then go up. Rather than like if you're just kind of just like dipping down and relying on that stretch reflex, you not really know what you're feeling for squats. So yeah, like I said, when you're early on in your powerlifting career, I feel like it's a good thing to implement a slower eccentric portion for your squat, just to make sure you know where you're at the bottom. If you know you're parallel, to go a little bit deeper. If you know you're deep enough, to go right back up. But don't rely on the stretch reflex, especially when you don't really know what technique works for you yet. That's probably my second biggest piece of advice for squatting for beginner powerlifters. All right, let's go. What do you want, 90?
With a 10.
All right, let's record from the side angle.
Let's see if he's actually hitting depth.
Yeah, so if I'm gonna record a video of depth, I better be hitting depth here. I love recording this angle for you guys because it's kind of like an accountability thing. And I think since you guys have not commented saying that I'm squatting high, I'm squatting to depth every single video. So let's go. I'm sure you guys will call me out. All right, first set of the day, we got 3 sets of 5 on ascending squats. So today I'm gonna be starting with 180. Let's talk. The final cue that you can use to ensure that you're hitting depth every time that you squat. I'm recording this from the side angle because this is where you're really gonna see this cue go into effect. And Anne did a really good job with this one. If you looked at her from the side, you would see that her ribs were very intact and that she wasn't flaring out her rib cage or extending her pelvis. She was using her core, her obliques, her everything during her brace to make sure that she wasn't flaring, keeping a neutral rib cage, keeping a neutral pelvis. And even once she got out of the hole too, you could see she's getting lower and lower and lower and still maintaining this position. And this position is allowing her to hit depth very easily. Whenever you see someone squatting with like a butt wink, in order to hit depth, that just means that they're squatting with like a flared rib cage or extended pelvis. And in order for them to get below parallel, they have to do that little wink in the bottom, if that makes sense. Like I said, the things that I want you to focus on whenever you're squatting is during your brace, expand through the stomach, expand the diaphragm, like into the belt. Like fill up as much space as you can here to breathe into your belt. You never wanna be in an extension, like sticking your ass out like a duck. You wanna make sure that you're tilting your pelvis down posteriorly and maintaining that neutral position as close to neutral as you can. And on the way down, control it, same way. Especially when you get to the bottom, that's the most important part. You wanna maintain that brace internally. Make sure you don't like release it too soon. And as you get to the bottom position, you're gonna start feeling that's where depth is. Yeah, those are the 3 things that I would really focus on to make sure that you're hitting depth consistently in your training. And if you're doing it consistently in your training, you're gonna be doing it on the platform where it matters the most. Let's do a quick recap before I do my final set. The first one, the first tip that I would give you guys would be to work on your mobility, to open up your hips, your hip flexors, your hamstrings, before you get underneath the barbell. If you get underneath the barbell and your body's kind of stiff, it's gonna be so much harder for you to hit depth and you're gonna feel awful doing it. The second tip that I gave you guys to ensure that you're hitting depth consistently with your training is controlling the eccentric on your squat. You never wanna really dive bomb your technique when you're starting out because you're not really sure where depth is. Like if you're a more experienced powerlifter, you can use a dive bomb to your advantage, but if you consistently struggle with depth, try slowing down a little bit. Slow down the squat. I'm not saying add a tempo, I'm saying control the squat time a little bit more. And then once you can consistently keep finding depth, maybe you can speed up that eccentric until you find like a happy medium. And then the final tip that I gave you guys would be to work on maintaining a neutral pelvis and a neutral rib cage during the squat. The squat brace is quite literally everything for your squat. Like if you have a poor and inefficient brace for your squat, that can cost you your rep, cost you your set. It can make you squat high. All of these like really bad things that you don't want to happen to you during your squat, it can happen before you even start it. So you have to make sure that you're having a technically sound brace. I can make like a whole new video on squat brace because it literally, like I said, is so important. But today we're just gonna solely focus on the positioning for your rib cage and the positioning for your pelvis. If you're watching all the way to the end of this video and you truly care about improving your squat, you can let me know down in the comments below by commenting what your favorite childhood movie is of all time. Have you guys ever seen that dinosaur movie? I feel like this is such like a hidden movie that no one knows. It's literally called Dinosaur and the main character's name is Aladar. But that was my favorite movie of all time growing up as a kid. Second favorite movie, I feel like I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this one, but I fucking love Barnyard. Barnyard's like one of like my go-to like comfort movies. Not the TV show, but the TV show is pretty good, but the movie itself, like when Ben was fighting the coyotes in the chicken coop, that was like one of my favorite scenes of all time. And he was playing that song on his guitar. That's cinema. That's gonna be it for today's video. Thank you guys so much again for 8,000 subscribers. That's a huge accomplishment for me. And this is just the beginning. Like I've only been posting consistently for like 2.5 weeks on YouTube. But like I told you guys, I'm going to commit to this. I'm doubling down on this platform this year. See you guys in the next YouTube video. Peace.